Hi, I am SSM. I have 27 years of pharma industry experience. In this presentation, we will discuss about pharma patents and marketing exclusivities. This slide shows new medicine or drug discovery and development timetable. On horizontal axis, you will see the timeline in years. In vertical axis, you will see three processes: drug discovery and development process, patent protection process, and generic competition process. So we'll discuss all three processes. So journey of new medicine or a drug starts with the discovery phase, wherein company will discover the new drug, and after discovery company will start the development of that new discovered drug, will formulate the prototype formulation, then will test that prototype formulation in preclinical testing in laboratory and animal testing, and after preclinical testing company will file IND or investigational new drug application with FDA. If there are objections, then FDA will communicate the objections in the IND application. If there are no objections, then IND will be approved. After IND approval, company will start with clinical testing with phase 1 clinical trial, which is done in 20 to 80 healthy volunteers to determine safety and initial doses. After phase 1, the company will start phase 2 clinical testing, which is done in 100 to 300 patients to look for efficacy and side effects. After phase 2 clinical testing, company will start phase 3 clinical trial, which is done in 1000 to 5000 patients to monitor adverse reactions in long term and to confirm the efficacy which was initially determined in phase 2 studies. Then after completing all phase 1, 2 and 3 studies, the company will file NDA or new drug application with FDA. Then FDA will review the new drug application and will approve if it is approvable. And during approval of NDA, FDA may ask for post-marketing testing or phase 4 clinical trials, in which FDA will ask to test the long-term safety of product in large population. Because as you know, in phase 1, 2 and 3 trials, there were very few number of patients which were exposed to the drug. But now after approval, the drug will be given to large population, and there may be many undetectable side effects which were not detected in phase 1, 2 and 3 trials, and they may come up in post-marketing phase. So that's why the FDA will ask for post-marketing surveillance or post-marketing testing. In the meanwhile, the company during discovery phase, whenever company has discovered the product or have the product, then company will start the patent protection process, which usually starts at about 2 to 3 years in discovery phase. Whenever they have the product ready and they have the invention, they will file patent application in US patent office, and simultaneously patent application will be filed abroad, and the patent will be granted by patent office if it is grantable, and the patent term or patent protection will be 20 years from date of filing of patent application, and this 20-year term may be extended further by two processes, either by Hatch-Waxman Extension, which is because of delay in regulatory approval of product. If there is a delay in regulatory approval of product by US FDA, then the term of patent may be extended by maximum of 5 years. So that is also called Hatch-Waxman Extension. Second type of extension is patent term restoration or patent term adjustment. And it happens if there is a delay in grant of patent by patent office. So if patent is not granted within 3 years from filing date, then the applicant or the company can file for patent term adjustment or restoration. So a patent term of 20-year may be extended either by Hatch-Waxman extension because of delay in regulatory approval by US FDA, or by patent term adjustment or restoration if there is a delay in grant of patent by US Patent Office. The third process is generic competition. Generic product cannot be launched or cannot be approved by US FDA before the expiry of patent or any extension which is added to the patent term. But the development of the generic product will start well before expiry of the patent. The generic company will start development of generic product well before expiry of the patent, because the process of generic development will take time. The generic company, they have to synthesize the product, they have to develop the formulation, they have to test the formulation, they have to do various studies including bioequivalence or viability studies, they have to compile the dossier. So the generic company will keep the generic application dossier ready well before the expiry of patent. So they can file for generic application with the dossier before expiry of patent, but the approval of the generic product will happen only after expiry of patent term. So the generic company will file the generic application or ANDA, or abbreviated new drug application, with FDA, and then FDA will review the application and will approve the application if it is approvable, and then generic company can market the product after approval of generic product. So market exclusivity is awarded to a drug to encourage innovation in field of pharmaceuticals, which it gets in the form of intellectual property rights or IPR, in the form of patent protection, and in form of regulatory exclusivities. So basically the market exclusivity is of two types: patent protection and regulatory exclusivity. So as I told you in previous slide, patent term is for 20 years. If patent is granted, the term of patent will be 20 years. And this 20-year terms can be adjusted or restored if there is a delay in grant of patent by patent office. And this 20-year term may be extended in the form of Hatch-Waxman extension if there is a delay in grant of regulatory approval by US FDA. So patent term adjustment and restoration can be maximum up to 5 years, and patent term extension or Hatch-Waxman extension can be for 5 years maximum. And there is another pediatric add-on exclusivity. If company submits the data in pediatric population, then they are eligible for 6 months of pediatric exclusivity or pediatric extension, which is add-on. So this 6-month extension will be added to the 20-year terms of patent. So patent term will become 20 years and 6 months if pediatric extension is granted. Second type of protection is regulatory exclusivity. There are different types of regulatory exclusivity. The first is new chemical entity or NCE exclusivity, which is for 5 years. Any new chemical entity which is approved for the first time in US is eligible for 5 years of NCE exclusivity. So if this 5-year NCE exclusivity, it will prevent any generic approval for 5 years based on the data submitted by innovator company. Next is new biological drug exclusivity, which is for 12 years. So if it is a chemical drug which is approved for first time in US, then exclusivity is for 5 years. If it is a biological drug which is approved for the first time in US, then exclusivity is for 12 years, because biological drugs are very different from chemical drugs. Their development is very difficult. The money and resources required for developing a biological drugs are much more than the for developing a chemical drug. So that's why the exclusivity for new biological drug is longer of 12 years as compared to exclusivity for NC or chemical drug, which is for 5 years. Next type of regulatory exclusivity is new clinical data or data exclusivity. If company submits new clinical data, maybe for new indication, and if it is approved, then that new indication is eligible for 3 year of clinical data exclusivities. So for next 3 years, the generic cannot be approved for that indication based on that new clinical study data. Next type of regulatory exclusivity is orphan drug exclusivity. Orphan drug exclusivity is for those indication which are orphan or rare indications. So orphan or rare indication is indication for which there are very less number of patients, and there is a definition in US for orphan disease or orphan indication. If there are less than 2 lakh or 200,000 patients in whole US, that will be called orphan or rare disease. And if company develops a product for that rare disease or orphan disease, then company is eligible for 7 year of orphan drug exclusivity for that indication. And next is pediatric extension. If company submits data in pediatric population, so it is eligible for 6 months of that pediatric extension, and this 6 month is will be added to all these exclusivities. The NCE exclusivity will become 5 year and 6 months. New clinical data exclusivity will become 3 years and 6 months. Orphan drug exclusivity will become 7 years and 6 months. A generic product can be launched in market only when both patent protection and regulatory exclusivities have expired. So both patent must have expired and all regulatory exclusivity they must have expired. And this patent protection and regulatory exclusivity, these are separate. They run concurrently. Patent protection starts from date of filing of patent application, and regulatory exclusivity start from date of approval of product from regulatory authorities, from US FDA in this case. So they run concurrently, they are not additives, and both patent term as well as all regulatory exclusivity, they must have expired before a generic can be approved. So a generic can be launched in market only when both patent protection and regulatory exclusivities have expired. Now coming to difference in patent and regulatory exclusivities. Patent protection is governed by patent office of a country. It is an exclusive right granted by government of a country to inventor to exclude others from making, using, selling or offering for sale or importing a patented product or invention. Regulatory exclusivities are governed by regulatory body of a country. And regulatory exclusivities are exclusive rights to a pharmaceutical product to restrict generic competition, to use or rely on safety and efficacy data filed by innovator company in order to obtain generic approval. So the generic company, they cannot get approval for generic drug based on clinical efficacy and safety data submitted by innovator company. And regulatory exclusivity is granted by regulatory bodies such as FDA in US and EMEA, European Medicine Agency in Europe. And these are regulatory authorities controlling marketing approval of drugs in respective countries. Patents are granted by patent office anywhere along with the development timeline of a drug, and they can encompass a wide range of claims. They can have varied types of claims, and claims provide the protection, or they provide the limit of protection for the patent. Innovator companies must list their patent in Orange Book. So whenever the innovator company files for approval of new drug, when they file for NDA, new drug application, the FDA will ask the innovator company to list all the relevant patents related to that product in the Orange Book. Orange Book is a database maintained by FDA. So the innovator company have they have to list all relevant patent related to the product in the Orange Book. And when generic company is filing generic application or ANDA or abbreviated new drug application, then generic company must address the all the patents listed in the Orange Book. So whenever generic application is filed, the FDA will look in the Orange Book for the patents listed related to that product, innovator product. So generic product cannot be approved by FDA before expiry of all the patents listed in the Orange Book, or maybe if the generic company is challenging those patents. So based on the listing of patents in Orange Book, the generic company can file 4 types of application or para application or paragraph application. Whenever generic company files generic application, they have to certify the generic application in the form of para 1 certification, paragraph 2 certification, paragraph 3 certification, or paragraph 4 certification. And they will certify that either there are no listed patent in the Orange Book, that application will come under para 1 certification, or the company will say that all the listed patent in the Orange Book have expired, that will be para 2 generic application. Or the generic company may say that I will market my drug only after expiry of all the listed patents in the Orange Book, and that will be para 3 application. Or maybe the generic company will say that I am not infringing the listed patents in the Orange Book, or maybe listed patents in the Orange Book are invalid, or maybe those patents are not enforceable. So basically the generic company are challenging the Orange Book listed patents. That will be called para 4 generic application. Regulatory exclusivity is granted by FDA in US upon approval of drug, and it run concurrently with the patent. Regulatory exclusivity is designed to promote the balance between new drug innovation and generic drug competition. Patents and regulatory exclusivity, they work in similar fashion, but they are distinctly different from one another. They run concurrently. The patent term starts from date of filing of patent application, and the regulatory exclusivity starts from date of regulatory approval of a product. So the patent term and regulatory exclusivity, they are different, the terms are different, and the starting time are different, and they run concurrently. They are not additive, they run concurrently. So that's all in this presentation. Thank you very much.